Are you facing federal racketeering charges, wiretap evidence, 37 witnesses, and enough indictments to wallpaper Newark? Well, congratulations, sweetheart. You may qualify for the brand new Federal Defense Academy, where absolute confidence meets terrible legal decisions. Why waste money on experienced attorneys when you can represent yourself using pure emotion, Jersey rage, and 3 stories about a guy named Sal from Bloomfield? At Federal Defense Academy, we teach you the essential courtroom skills needed to survive modern federal prosecution. Skills like yelling objection at completely inappropriate times, aggressively pointing at prosecutors, calling witnesses this friggin' liar, explaining RICO statutes using sandwich metaphors, and maintaining eye contact with jurors like you're trying to sell them stolen air conditioners in 1987. Judge, Mr. DiNapoli, do you understand the seriousness of these charges? Defendant, Your Honor, respectfully, this whole thing's anti-Italian discrimination with paperwork. That's the Federal Defense Academy difference. Other legal programs teach procedure, evidence, professionalism. Boring. We teach presence. Because jurors don't remember statutes. They remember the loud guy screaming about government betrayal while sweating through a silk shirt. And thanks to our exclusive Find Me Guilty starter package to Tim, you'll receive 1 oversized pinky ring, 2 emergency courtroom cigars, a leather-bound notebook containing absolutely no useful legal information, and our best-selling audio course, So You Accidentally Fired Your Lawyer, P. Featuring 12 educational chapters, including The Jury Loves Confidence, Never Let Facts Ruin a Great Monologue, Cross-Examination and Emotional Damage, and the fan favorite, Maybe Don't Insult the Judge. Older guy in tracksuit. Before Federal Defense Academy TM, I was looking at life in prison. Now, I'm looking at contempt of court. Thanks, Jackie. So call now. Because if the government already spent 6 years building a federal case against you, what's the worst that could happen? Federal Defense Academy. We're not saying it's a good idea, we're just saying it's hilarious. Federal Defense Academy is not accredited by anybody with functioning judgment. Results may vary. Representing yourself in federal court is historically a catastrophically stupid idea. Side effects include prison, screaming, emotional collapse, sanctions, confusion, paper cuts, and becoming a documentary later. Please consult an actual attorney, you maniac. Viewer discretion is advised. This documentary contains organized crime history, federal prosecutions, courtroom insanity, prison stories, alleged racketeering, cigar smoke, Jersey-level screaming, and enough government paperwork to collapse a small horse. This documentary is presented for historical commentary, criticism, satire, education, and entertainment purposes. Nobody here is glorifying organized crime. We're documenting it. There's a difference. So before some internet law student storms into the comments section screaming, "You're encouraging crime," relax, counselor. Half these guys spent their lives eating prison meatloaf under fluorescent lighting, while federal agents named Dennis read wiretap transcripts at them for 17 straight months. Nobody's signing up for that lifestyle after this documentary. And no, we are not claiming every old school wise guy was secretly a philosopher king. Some of these guys were dangerous. Some were charismatic. Some were funny. Some were absolute psychopaths. And then there was Jackie DiNorscio, a man who somehow turned a federal RICO trial into a stand-up comedy act. A man who represented himself in court while facing life in prison. A man who insulted prosecutors, flirted with jurors, fought with judges, screamed at witnesses, and somehow became lovable in the process. This ain't a fairy tale. This is the story of a guy who walked into federal court already buried and still made the whole country laugh. Roll the documentary.
Pizzaverse Studios. Palermo Productions. Original documentary. Find Me Guilty. The Last Real Courtroom Mobster. Written by Bambi Palermo. Narrated by Vincent DiPrio. Produced by Pizzaverse Studios and Palermo Productions. The man who turned court into theater. Most mob trials end the same way. Dark suits, dead eyes, federal prosecutors carrying enough paperwork to kill a rhinoceros, defense lawyers charging the GDP of a small nation, and eventually, guilty. That's how the federal machine works. The government doesn't bring RICO cases unless they already built the coffin. But Jackie DiNorscio didn't care. Because Jackie wasn't built like normal people. Born in Philadelphia in 1940, Jackie grew up in the rough Italian-American streets where reputation mattered more than money. This was old-school neighborhood America. Before corporate culture, before influencers, before every idiot online called himself an alpha male while selling protein powder out of a garage. Back then, men settled things face to face. And Jackie grew up surrounded by criminals, bookmakers, hustlers, fighters, and wise guys tied to the Lucchese crime family. He learned early never rat, never fold, never embarrass yourself. Unfortunately for the federal government, Jackie took those rules very seriously. The streets that built him. Jackie came up during the golden age of the American Mafia. Not the movie version. The real one. The ugly one. The America where unions, gambling, loan sharking, trucking, bars, construction, and entire neighborhoods quietly operated under mob influence. The mafia wasn't hidden back then. It was woven into the environment. Everybody knew somebody. The bartender knew bookmakers. The union guy knew enforcers. The cops knew who ran the neighborhood, and the neighborhood knew exactly who not to talk about. Jackie became associated with the Luccheses during a period when organized crime still held enormous influence across the Northeast. And Jackie, he had the personality for it. Fast-talking, funny, explosive, loyal, completely incapable of shutting the hell up. Which sounds entertaining until you realize federal courtrooms tend to dislike screaming Italian men who treat cross-examination like an argument outside a deli. But before the courtroom came prison. And Jackie would become legendary behind bars long before Hollywood ever heard his name. Prison violence and survival. Jackie spent years in prison systems across America. And prison in the 1970s and 1980s wasn't some Netflix documentary with emotional piano music. It was brutal. Violence, politics, race wars, predators, corrupt guards, isolation. You survived by force, alliances, or personality. Jackie survived through sheer presence. People remembered him because he never stopped talking. Even in prison, Jackie became known for stories, jokes, arguments, and endless charisma. That sounds funny now. But charisma in prison is survival currency. A man who can make dangerous people laugh sometimes lives longer than the strongest guy in the room. And Jackie learned another important skill. How to fight psychologically. Federal prosecutors later discovered this the hard way. Because Jackie didn't behave like defendants were supposed to behave. He didn't cower. He didn't whisper. He didn't act defeated. He acted like the entire system was annoying him. Which, honestly, is hysterical considering the government was trying to bury him alive under racketeering charges. The case that should have destroyed him. By the 1980s, the federal government had perfected the modern RICO prosecution. RICO changed everything. Before RICO, prosecutors had to prove individual crimes directly. After RICO, the government could build conspiracy pyramids connecting dozens of people together under organized crime enterprises. And once prosecutors targeted the mafia with RICO, it became a massacre. The feds indicted massive crews at once. Wiretaps, informants, financial records, surveillance, cooperators. The government stacked evidence until trials looked less like justice and more like industrial demolition projects. Jackie eventually became one of 20 defendants in a massive federal mob trial in Newark. The government expected another easy mafia conviction. Instead, they accidentally created the greatest courtroom circus in organized crime history. I'll represent myself. This is where the story becomes unbelievable. Jackie fired his lawyer. Now listen carefully. This man was facing life in prison during one of the biggest mob trials in America, and decided, "Nah, I got this." That is either A, courage, B, insanity, or C, peak Jersey confidence. Possibly all three. The judge warned him repeatedly. Federal court is not television. It is procedural warfare. One mistake can destroy your life forever. Jackie didn't care. Because Jackie believed something very important. Nobody could sell Jackie better than Jackie. And somehow, he was right. The greatest show in federal court history. The trial became legendary. Not because Jackie was legally brilliant, because he was entertaining as hell. He joked with jurors, argued with witnesses, interrupted proceedings, told stories, cracked jokes, insulted prosecutors. At times, the courtroom sounded less like federal litigation and more like Thanksgiving dinner in North Jersey after somebody mentions politics. The jurors loved him, which horrified prosecutors, because prosecutors rely heavily on emotional control. They want organized crime defendants to appear cold, dangerous, and intimidating. Jackie ruined the image. He came across human. Funny, warm, loud, ridiculous. And suddenly the courtroom dynamic shifted. The government wanted a monster. The jury saw a person. That's powerful. Because trials are emotional before they're legal. And Jackie understood human psychology instinctively, even if he probably couldn't explain it academically. The prosecutors lose control. Federal prosecutors became increasingly frustrated. Imagine spending years building a gigantic RICO case, only for one defendant to turn the proceedings into open mic night. Jackie cross-examined witnesses personally. Sometimes effectively, sometimes chaotically, sometimes like a guy arguing over parking spaces outside a bakery. But jurors stayed engaged. That matters. Because long trials destroy juror attention spans, Jackie kept the room alive. He became the center of the entire case. The media noticed. The courtroom spectators noticed. Even the judge struggled not to react to him. And suddenly, the defendant became the star. That is extraordinarily dangerous for prosecutors. Because once jurors emotionally connect with a defendant, conviction becomes psychologically harder. Not impossible, but harder. Find me guilty. Eventually, the jury returned verdicts. Many defendants were convicted. But Jackie, acquitted. Not guilty. Against overwhelming odds. Against federal expectations. Against the machinery of the American justice system. Now, to be clear, this does not mean Jackie lived some innocent civilian life selling cannolis and fixing bicycles. But inside that courtroom, he won. And the victory transformed him into a legend. Not because he beat the government entirely, but because he embarrassed them publicly. And buddy, the federal government hate embarrassment. Hollywood arrives. Years later, Hollywood adapted the story into Find Me Guilty. Directed by Sidney Lumet. Starring Vin Diesel. Which is still one of the funniest casting surprises in mob movie history. Because audiences expected explosions and muscle cars. Instead, they got Fat Jersey Mob Guy argues for 3 hours. And honestly, it worked. The movie captured something many mob films miss. The humor. Real organized crime figures weren't always cold, cinematic masterminds. A lot of them were loud neighborhood guys with tempers, insecurities, jokes, addictions, and giant personalities. Jackie represented that world perfectly. The cost of the life. But eventually, the lifestyle catches everyone. Always. That's the part internet mob romantics never understand. There's no happy ending in organized crime. Only varying degrees of tragedy. Prison destroys people slowly. Stress destroys the body. Paranoia destroys the mind. Violence destroys families. Jackie spent much of his life inside institutions. And eventually his health declined severely. In 2004, Jackie DiNorscio died from complications related to diabetes while incarcerated. No glamorous ending. No cinematic final walk into the sunset. Just another aging gangster dying behind walls built by the same system he spent his life fighting. That's the real ending. Not the movie ending. The real one. Why people still remember him? Jackie DiNorscio became immortal because he represented something disappearing from America. Not organized crime. Personality. Authenticity. Chaos. The old neighborhood loudmouth who refused to sound corporate. Today, everybody talks like public relations robots terrified of offending LinkedIn recruiters. Jackie sounded human. Flawed human, dangerous human, funny human, uncontrolled human. That energy made him unforgettable. And that's why decades later people still watch courtroom clips, still quote him, still talk about him. Because for one brief moment, a wise guy walked into the most rigid legal system on earth and turned it into theater. And maybe that's why people still remember Jackie DiNorscio. Not because he was perfect, Not because he was innocent. And definitely not because he lived some glamorous Hollywood gangster fantasy life. People remember him because in a world built entirely on fear, he refused to act afraid. The federal courtroom is designed to break people psychologically. The language, the procedure, the pressure, the suits, the agents, the stacks of paperwork taller than a fourth grader. Most defendants walk into that environment already defeated. Jackie walked in like he owned the building. That's what made him unforgettable. Not the acquittal, the attitude. Because for one strange moment in American legal history, a loud Jersey wise guy grabbed the steering wheel away from the federal government and turned a RICO trial into performance art. And guys, that's the kind of story Hollywood couldn't ignore. If you enjoyed this documentary, welcome officially to the Pizzaverse. This ain't corporate history. We don't do sanitized documentaries with soft piano music and Wikipedia narration recorded by a guy who sounds like he sells insurance during the daytime. Over here, we dig through the smoke. We talk about the stories behind the headlines, the personalities behind the myths, the criminals, the survivors, the manipulators, the forgotten people, the broken systems, the Hollywood lies, the government lies, the internet insanity, and the strange human beings trapped somewhere in the middle of all of it. From organized crime history to dark Hollywood conspiracies, to internet train wrecks, to the disturbing origins of fairy tales, to forgotten American history. The Pizzaverse covers the stories polite society usually avoids. And honestly, those are usually the most interesting ones. So if you're into documentaries, cinematic storytelling, mob history, psychological breakdowns, historical rabbit holes, old-school Jersey energy, and enough sarcasm to trigger 3 law students and a Reddit moderator simultaneously, subscribe to the channel. Because we got a lot more coming. And trust me, sweetheart, the next story somehow gets even crazier. And seriously, thank you for being here tonight. No bullshit. The internet today moves so fast people barely sit still long enough to microwave a hot pocket. So the fact you spent your time watching a long documentary about a screaming Italian guy representing himself in federal court, that means something. Whether you've been here since the beginning or you just stumbled into the Pizzaverse by accident at 3 a.m. while eating leftovers and avoiding responsibility, we appreciate you. Every comment, every like, every share, every time you tell somebody, yo, these maniacs made a 2-hour documentary about a mobster yelling at prosecutors. That support keeps this whole crazy operation alive. And honestly, the community around these documentaries became one of the best parts of doing this. Because the audience ain't passive here. Everybody brings stories, opinions, history, arguments, theories, memories. Half the comments sections feel like a social club mixed with group therapy and a federal surveillance operation. And we love every second of it. So from everybody here at Pizzaverse Studios and Palermo Productions, thank you for riding with us. Take care of yourselves. Watch your backs. Question everything. And remember, confidence is not a legal strategy. See you at the next one.
All the wise guys were free. at least until the next roundup. And Jackie, the clown prince of crime, was their hero. There was no celebration for Jackie. He was returned to prison to serve his 30-year sentence for drug dealing.
I came into this world feet first, a breech birth, and I'm going to go out that way because, first of all, when I done something wrong in this world, I danced and I paid the fed away. Not like the informant you got today. Like with Vanel, there's a guy that was born out of his mother's ass, not true any other way. Like, of course, if he can't do it, in other words, that government wanted Mr. Gotti so bad that they would say, let Gavano go for the 19 murders he confessed. What kind of country is this? What kind of country have we come into?
In a world filled with weak desserts, spineless brownies, and emotionally fragile cupcakes, one burro stood up and said, "Go screw yourself." Introducing Nunzio 718 Fudge, built different since Exit 13. Crafted deep in the caffeine-soaked concrete jungles of Staten Island, this ain't your grandmother's little church-baked sale fudge. This is burro-approved confectionery. Made with rich espresso chocolate, salted caramel bourbon swirl, and cannoli shell crunch, powerful enough to restart a stalled union argument. Every piece is engineered for late-night opinions, parking lot philosophy, and aggressively pointing at people during conversations. Other fudge, please enjoy responsibly. Nunzio 718 Fudge. Say it to my face then. But wait, order now and upgrade to the Verrazano Overload Edition. That's double espresso, extra caramel, and enough sugar-fueled aggression to survive 3 hours in Staten Island traffic behind a guy refusing to use his blinker. Side effects include yelling unbelievable at strangers, talking with your hands, sudden knowledge of sanitation routes, arguing about the Yankees in a deli parking lot, emotionally recovering from absolutely nothing. And unlike those fancy Hollywood candy brands, Nunzio 718 Fudge is made the old-fashioned way, with loyalty, espresso, and mild emotional instability. So ask yourself, are you eating dessert or are you eating respect? Nunzio 718 Fudge TM. One bite and suddenly everybody's got an opinion. Available nowhere respectable.
I don't reply by, please stop typing. I'm not in the mood, don't try me. Do I look pissed off, bitch? Cause I might be. Don't freak with me and my frequency. No decency, I got too many girls trying to freak my meat to be pressed over little Miss Minnie. Bitch, pay me my damn respect. Let him sweat, let him sweat, let him sweat. Call Taylor, I'ma need all hands on deck. Let him sweat, let him sweat, let him sweat. I'm not in the mood, come say something. I'm not in the mood, come say something. I'm not in the mood, come say something. Come say something, bitch, come say something. Come say something. Come say something. I'm not in the mood, come say something. Come say something, bitch, come say something. Good luck getting out alive. I don't like to babies. I didn't mean to hurt you. I heard that all my life. Bitch, I got big dreams, pipe down. Talk shit, get psyched out. Look who's on the mic now. Not you, bitch, shut the fuck up. Bitch, pay me my damn respect. Let him sweat, let him sweat, let him sweat. Call Taylor, I'ma need all hands on deck. Let him sweat, let him sweat, let him sweat. I'm not in the mood, come say something. I'm not in the mood, come say something. I'm not in the mood, come say something. Come say something, bitch, come say something. Come say something. Come say something. I'm not in the mood, come say something. Come say something, bitch, come say something. Welcome to your funeral. Everybody come on, gather round. Life is so beautiful. Now that I don't see you around, I dare you to run your mouth. I dare you to run your mouth. I dare you to run your say something.